Okay, so this is going to be a somewhat reaction or review of Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 3. No official title yet, but we're going to dub it the Battle at Winterfell. Before we get started, thank you very much for watching, and comment below with your thoughts about this episode. And if you haven't done so already, hit subscribe to see more videos like this. So after Endgame this weekend, we get this episode of Game of Thrones. This is like Infinity War for television. I'm pretty sure if you saw Endgame and this episode of Game of Thrones, you should take tomorrow off of work. So let's go ahead and dive right into this episode. We're gonna go down my list of notes. First, I just want to start with that beautiful shot of Dothraki running into the darkness with their swords on fire. It just showed the grand scale of this cast and seeing all of these characters coming together to fight this massive white army. And just that scene with Daenerys and Jon sitting on top of that mountain, looking down at all the Dothraki as they're lighting up the way into the battle. It was just right off the bat, so much tension has been built. I was literally sitting on the edge of my seat. But let's pull it back a little bit. So they're all waiting for this attack to happen. And I keep asking, what the hell is Samwell doing there? Every time you look at him, he has this god-awful, terrified look on his face. As terrified as he is, he's always right there in the front lines. And I gotta give my boy Samwell props, because I would have been gone out the back, running somewhere else. And honestly, I had no idea what was going on during any of these fight scenes, but it just showed how frantic and how crazy those things are. Which, let's just point out, the Dothraki came running back. But after they came running back, it was still that moment of tension, of silence, waiting for the whites to come charging in. And they drew it out so long. You were just sitting there waiting, and you really felt like you were there waiting. You felt that terror, you felt that anxiety, and this whole episode was filled with anxiety. Oh. All right, let's move on. The battle's starting to get going, and it's raging, it's going. And then finally, Daenerys flies in, bursting these fools into flames. Then you have Jon flying in on a dragon too. It was just so epic. Then you even see the White King came prepared for it, because you see that raging snowstorm. And so Daenerys goes flying away, Jon goes flying away, and I'm just like, do they realize the White King has a dragon? And so the entire time, I'm anticipating the dragon coming out and biting Daenerys or Jon off of one of the dragons. This was just so much. Okay, let's fast forward. There's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of who knows what happened. Let's talk about Arya. Holy shit, Arya. She went hard, and no one even saw that coming. And then even that scene when Davos turns and looks at her, he's like, what the fuck? Quick mention I'll refer back to later. Sansa gets sent down to the crypt because, I mean, what is she gonna do in the battle? Moving right along, we get a massive loss on the battlefield. Everyone's retreating into the castle. Daenerys can't see because she's lost in the snowstorm. They can't light the trenches, and luckily Melisandre is there and she lights the trenches for them. And the whites just sit there and watch. They are waiting for orders from the White King, and then the White King has them become their own bridge, and then they attack Winterfell, and they're climbing up the walls, and they're breaking through, and they're just everywhere. Oh my God, I have so much energy right now because this episode put so much stress and anxiety into my life. Anyway, let's talk about Lady Mormont. She went down like a champ. That giant grabbed her, crushed her body, and she jammed the thing right into his eye. This battle just, I can't even, words can't even express, I don't know. Just that scene was, and she, yeah. All right, we're gonna move on. Anyway, we finally get to the scene with Arya that was showcased in the Season 8 trailer a couple months ago. And she's just running from the whites, and she's using her no-one abilities. And talk about tension during this scene. The tension was very high. She was moving through the bookcases, throwing books to get them distracted. So we found out the Hound and Beric are coming to go find her because she's literally fighting these things on her own because Arya is a freaking badass, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But Beric basically sacrifices himself for her. He goes there to rescue her, ends up getting stabbed to death pretty much, just so she can escape. And it's pretty much like her survival was destiny. It needed to happen. Again, we'll get to that later. But let's jump right into the dragon fight. Judging by her reaction, it seemed like they already knew that Viserion was part of the white crew. I don't know if that's the case. If you do, let me know down in the comments below, but I felt like this was supposed to be a surprise. I didn't really see that on her face, but still, this dragon fight, I was waiting for it, and we got it. Cool, so the White King gets thrown off, and Daenerys swoops in, and Dracarys, bam, right on the White King. What? Yeah, didn't do nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing happened. He was chilling. He was cool. He was like, oh, you got another dragon I can take. So Daenerys takes off before the White King gets another dragon. Jon Snow sneaks up behind the White King. He's like, cool, what up? Let me raise some of your dead bodies. He raised everybody up that had just been killed in the battle. And so Jon Snow's sitting there surrounded by whites as the White King just walks off. Luckily, Daenerys swoops on in again and saves Jon Snow. So the recently revived whites start attacking Drogon. And he has a fly off screaming because he's getting stabbed and attacked, and Daenerys falls off. Oh god. Okay, so let's point out the fact that Daenerys does not know how to fight. So Jorah has to run in there, keep her protected, while Jon Snow trying to find the White King and get to Bran. Then while all this has happened, down in the crypt, when he revives the bodies in the crypt revive too. So all the women and children and Tyrion and Sansa down in the crypt are getting attacked by those whites. Oh boy. One moment down there though that was extremely touching was between Tyrion and Sansa. As they're running, they're hiding, and they really are just bonding. They're holding hands, and it's kind of like they're accepting their death. And it was just a very slowed down moment in this raging battle. Then while all of that has happened, Theon's in charge of protecting Bran, and he's getting attacked by whites. And let's just say Theon really steps his game up here. He's protecting Bran, he's fighting the whites off. It gets to the point where he's the only one standing, and he's taking down whites left and right. But the White King eventually gets there, and this whole ending of this episode was just... So once the White King's there with his crew and starts approaching, Theon basically sees that this is the end of the line. Bran turns to him and says, "You're a good man." And that's all that needed to be said. Theon got his redemption. And Theon rushes into the White King and dies. Not necessarily surprised, I did see this coming, but I do think it was done well. And it hurt. This was definitely one of the moments that caused that thing where water kind of comes from your eyeballs or something like that. I don't know what it's called because I don't do that sort of thing. But so now we get this moment where the music really swells, the dialogue, the sound effects go down. Jon Snow's desperate to get to Bran, and Viserion comes back and is raging through the castle, and Jon can't get through. Meanwhile, in the crypt, Sansa, Tyrion, and the rest of the crew down there are still getting attacked by the whites. On the battlefield, Jorah's protecting Daenerys, and Daenerys had some in her. She was slicing and dicing a little bit, but Jorah was going hard. He was getting stabbed left and right. He kept getting up. He was not calling it quits, and he was protecting her until he died. All this is happening. The White King is approaching Bran. They share this moment where they're looking directly at each other. As he's pulling out his sword, he turns and Arya's leaping in at him. And he grabs her by the neck. She drops her knife, catches it with the other hand, and delivers the final blow. And it was the most bitter, sweet, powerful Arya is the shit moment in Game of Thrones history. It was by far one of the most satisfying moments of this entire series, to see Arya as the one who took down the Night King. All that training, everything has led up to this point, and it has paid off. It was prophesied. She was going to close a lot of eyes. And her and Melisandre shared a moment where she said you would close brown eyes, green eyes, blue eyes, and Arya knew exactly what she had to do. Anyway, once that happens, the entire white army crumbles, falls to the ground, dies. Viserion, all the people on the battlefield, all the people in the crypt, the White King, his crew, everything just crumbles down. And they won. They just won a battle against the White King. And now, all that's left is Cersei. This episode was just so tense, and the entire time you felt the rage, you felt the desperation, you felt the terror, and then you felt the triumph when they finally won. Mind you, they just lost their entire army, and I have no idea how they're going to challenge Cersei now, but man, this was an episode. Alright, so we'll go down the list. We lost Lady Marmont, we lost Beric, we lost Jorah. From what I can tell, both dragons are still fine and intact. But Sansa's safe, Arya's safe, Jon Snow is safe, Bran is safe, Daenerys is safe, Tyrion is safe, Jaime Lannister is safe, Brienne is safe. So, yeah. I'm just gonna need a minute. I could probably keep talking about this, but honestly, I'm exhausted after seeing Endgame and this Game of Thrones episode. My mind can't really take it anymore. I just needed to get it out of my brain and talk about it just a little bit. Hopefully I'll be able to sleep, but I'll probably just be a nervous wreck the entire night. But oh boy, definitely looking forward to the next episode where I guess they're heading to King's Landing. So thank you for watching this review / reaction / therapy session. Comment below with your thoughts about this episode. I'd love to see what you thought and how it made you feel, because yeah. And if you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe, and if you like it even more, hit that little notification bell to be alerted anytime I upload any new videos. Until next time, shine on, you crazy diamonds.